The Ravens finally got the outside test we've been waiting for, and the strangest part wasn't really Baltimore versus Minnesota. It was Baltimore versus Baltimore. One side of this team looked like it already knew exactly what it wanted to be. The other looked like it was still trying to get there. And then, right in the middle of Baltimore testing its new offense against one of the most aggressive pressure systems in football, the center taking most of the first team reps left practice on a cart. Now, one joint practice in August does not prove this offense is broken, and it definitely doesn't prove the defense is ready to dominate the league. Nobody wins the AFC in August, but this was the first time many of Baltimore's core players had to solve another team's personnel, another team's coaching, and another team's problems. That's better evidence than another practice against themselves. Philadelphia gave us the first clue. The young players produced, the depth looked organized, and some of the training camp hype finally had another jersey standing across from it. But most of the Ravens, who were actually determined this season, weren't playing. Minnesota changed that. And if there was one thing I wanted to see, it was this new offense against Brian Flores. Danny Pinter basically called it the perfect test. Flores pressures as much as almost anybody in football, and Minnesota isn't interested in making the picture easy for your quarterback. That's important because Baltimore hasn't just changed a few plays. Around Lamar Jackson, they're changing some of the machinery underneath him. Quarterbacks coach Israel Woolfolk has talked about new terminology, new motions, cadence changes, and different footwork. Baltimore even switched Lamar from a right foot up stance to a left foot up stance because of how they want the timing of his drops to connect with the progressions and routes. They're also establishing a more defined pocket depth, so the tackles know where Lamar's launch point should be. And I think Woolfolk explained the goal perfectly. Don't take away what makes Lamar special when everything breaks down. Make the first play work often enough that he doesn't constantly have to rescue the second one. Then Minnesota started sending pressure, and Baltimore did not solve all of it. The Ravens' own practice report described the offense as being under siege during parts of 11-on-11 work. Lamar took multiple practice sacks, with Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner among the rushers getting home. And when they got to 2-minute football, the first-team offense couldn't finish the drive. Minnesota's own report tells the same basic story. Turner got into the backfield immediately. Lamar answered with the completion to Mark Andrews, but the pressure kept showing up. Eventually, the drive reached fourth down. Baltimore completed the pass underneath, and it wasn't enough. The second-team offense had an even rougher time with penalties and pressure. That's not a preseason scoreboard. That's a situational test the offense did not pass on day one. But here's where I don't want to do the lazy thing and pretend nothing worked. Baltimore did find some answers. Lamar hit Zay Flowers for one of the offense's best plays on a quick 3-step drop. He made a couple of creative sidearm throws to Mark Andrews. And Baltimore found some success with quick and short throws, the exact kind of answer you need when a defense is bringing pressure. So this was not the offense is broken. It was the offense still isn't consistently operating at the level Baltimore is trying to build toward. And that's why day 2 matters so much. Now, Lamar has seen the looks. Declan Doyle has seen them. The offensive line has seen them. They have the film. A difficult first day can be noise. What happens after you've had a chance to correct it tells us a lot more. Which brings us to the worst time development of the afternoon. Danny Pinter was injured during 11-on-11 work and had to leave on a cart. When Danny Pinter spoke afterward, there was still no diagnosis. Pinter needed testing. So I'm not speculating about how serious it is. What matters to the story right now is that Baltimore already had an unsettled center competition, and suddenly that competition had another variable. Pinter had taken most of the first team work. Ethan Posich has been working his way back from an Achilles injury. Jovan Gwynn is fighting for the same job. And center isn't just another square on the depth chart when you're changing the quarterback's footwork, launch point, and timing. Somebody in the middle has to communicate the picture cleanly enough for all of that structure to work. Then came one of those little practice moments that probably means nothing by itself, but you can't help noticing it. On the very next play, after Pinter went down, Gwynn helped to blow open a huge lane through the middle for Derrick Henry. One block doesn't win a starting job. But suddenly, day 2 has another question. Who gets the important center reps now? And what happens to the protection when they do? And this is where day 1 gets really interesting. The same Minnesota practice that created more questions about Baltimore's offense seemed to answer several of them on defense. Danny Pinter came away lacking the physicality at the line of scrimmage, the run fits, and the coverage. Baltimore's own report described the secondary as suffocating for much of practice. The front created problems, and Nate Wiggins may have had the best practice of anybody on the Ravens. Justin Jefferson got him on a deep ball, then Wiggins came right back and broke up another deep shot. He also got his hands on another throw intended for Jefferson. Marlon Humphrey had a delayed blitz sack and multiple pass breakups. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for in August. Not, did an elite receiver ever catch a football? Of course he did. I'm looking for whether Baltimore's secondary can lose a rep, reset, and keep playing the defense the way it's supposed to be played. And I'm holding the defense to the same standard I'm holding the offense. They did not finish perfectly. Minnesota closed practice by scoring touchdowns on both of its 2-minute offensive possessions. One went to Justin Jefferson, the other came from J.J. McCarthy to Miles Price. So Baltimore's defense had the better overall day, but Minnesota gave them something very specific to correct at the end. And that's where I think the real story of day one is. The biggest difference Minnesota exposed wasn't Ravens versus Vikings. It was one side of Baltimore versus the other. The defense looks like it's refining an identity. The offense still looks like it's building one. That's not the same thing as saying the defense will be better when the season starts. It's saying that right now, one side appears closer to becoming what its coaches want it to be. And when you think about it, that makes sense. The offense has a new coordinator, new language, new quarterback mechanics, new timing, a center competition, new protection expectations. The defense has changes too, but day one looked more like refinement on that side. Offensively, Baltimore is still synchronizing pieces that all have to happen together. So for day two, I'm watching three things. First, can Lamar and this offense respond to Minnesota's pressure after seeing it for an entire day? Second, who gets the important center reps if Pinter can't go, and does that change the protection? And third, can the defense repeat everything that worked while finishing the 2-minute period better? Because one practice is information. 2 days starts giving you a pattern. Ravens flock. Which side are you buying more after day one? Minter's defense or the new offense around Lamar? And what's the one thing you need to see on day two before you feel better? Drop it below. Today gave us the test. Tomorrow tells us whether the result was real.